Welcome everybody to our webinar today, which is to our webinar today, which is Start Telling Your Nonprofit Story Using Your Candid Profile. We are going to cover a fair amount of material pretty quickly today. It's going to be all about why do candid profiles on GuideStar exist? What purpose do they serve? Why might you need to spend time on updating one of these? And what exactly are candid profiles and what's in there exactly? How do you update yours? Who looks at these, etc. Things like that. My name is Tracy Kaufman. I am an educational programming manager here at Candid, based out of New York City, and I will be facilitating today's session. My colleague Ebony Carroll, based out of the Atlanta area, is going to be supporting on chat today. Briefly, a little bit about Candid, because talking about GuideStar and Candid profiles sometimes makes a little more sense within context of who we are, and we recognize that some of you might be new to Candid. So Candid is a nonprofit organization made up out of two pre-existing legacy organizations, which are Foundation Center and GuideStar. So Foundation Center has existed since 1956, and since that time, it has been the #1 source of data and research and information on foundations and grants worldwide. Whereas GuideStar has been around since about 1994, and what Foundation Center is for foundations and grants, GuideStar is for nonprofits. It is the #1 source of information on the nonprofit sector. And almost 5 years ago, Foundation Center and GuideStar came together, joined forces, became one organization. We changed our name, and we are now known as Candid. What we are all about is the fact that every year, millions of nonprofits spend trillions of dollars around the world. Our job is to find out, where does that money come from? Where does that money go? And why does it matter? We get you the information that you need to do good. So we have a couple of co-hosts on with us today from our Candid community network. One of our co-hosts is Diane Malik, who is representing the Arlington Heights Memorial Library in Arlington Heights, Illinois. And so this is one of the locations that you can go, one of many locations that we have all over the place to access Candid resources free of charge. So Diane, I'll turn it over to you if you want to talk a little bit about some of the things that people can access at your library.
Hi, I'm Diane. I'm with the Arlington Heights Memorial Library. We're in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. And basically, I'm the business services advisor here. So I do everything to kind of provide and kind of connect people with the tools and resources and speakers that are helpful for nonprofits and for people in small business. And so especially in the area of nonprofit, I just feel like I'm a connector. So everything Candid, anybody who's coming in with questions about their nonprofit, I am kind of just trying to connect them and show them all of the different great things that Candid has. One of those things is bringing speakers like this. So these kinds of programs are so helpful, but also just sitting with them and helping them how to use Foundation Directory, using all of the different resources, and just trying to be a place where people can get their hands on these tools, because when you show these tools to them, they're really wowed by what they can do. So anyways, I just want to say thanks so much. And I think that's about it.
Great. Thank you, Diane. And we have one other co-host on the line today, Zakia Brewer from the East Bay Community Foundation over in Oakland, California. Zakia, are you on the line here?
I am. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Zakia with the East Bay Community Foundation, or EBCF. I'm actually a part of our Ascend BLO team, which is an initiative that's housed at EBCF, which supports Black-led organizations across the Bay Area. So through opportunities like partnerships with Candid, summits, regional convenings, bi-weekly newsletter full of different resources. With Candid, it always a standing partner and resource that we share out with the network. So just really excited that we can continue this partnership. And yes, I see on the screen, these are our 4 program strategies at the foundation: our community organizing, power building, movement building, fostering inclusive economic models, arts and culture for social and racial justice, and then our capacity building with the racial equity lens, which is where we fall under our team. The Symbiolo team falls under that program strategy. So again, just super excited to be able to continue this partnership with Candid, and looking forward to this webinar. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Zakia. All right. So with that, thank you to both of our co-hosts. And so at either of these locations, East Bay Community Foundation or the Arlington Heights Library in Illinois, you can access Candid resources, and we have many, many other places all around the country where you can access Candid resources for free, including the Foundation Directory, including GuideStar Pro, and get lots of great information for your nonprofit. So, as we prepare to jump into our session today, what we are going to cover in our time together, we're going to talk first of all, why should you claim your Candid profile on GuideStar.org? Given that many of you already have websites and or social media, why is it worth your time to also claim your Candid profile on GuideStar and take the time to keep it up to date? What purpose do these serve? We're also going to talk about what each seal of transparency signifies, how you can earn a 2023 seal of transparency, what are all the things that are involved in that, and how your organization's information can be shared this way through over 200 different charitable sites of many, many different sorts. So with that, shall we jump in? So, all right, what is a Candid profile? Let's jump into that. Okay, so a Candid profile, it serves some purposes here. There are some issues that the nonprofit sector faces, at least especially in the United States. A lot of that comes down to a lack of public trust, relatively. There is a report that comes out every year called the Edelman Trust Barometer, and it displays kind of the level of public trust that people have in various institutions, including nonprofits, businesses, government, media, and the results tend to be a little bit concerning for all institutions, but nonprofits in particular have historically run into a problem of not always being deemed competent and ethical by the general public. This is not to say that nonprofits are actually not competent or ethical. This is about public perception of the nonprofit sector. There is often sometimes a misconception about greed, high compensation, a lack of honesty and transparency. And in particular, that lack of honesty and transparency that sometimes comes through in public recognition, it's a problem for all of us when it comes time to do our fundraising and try to maintain our public support that we need to be able to do the work that we do. So, what do we do about problems like this? What we need is we need to have a tool for being seen as both competent and ethical, and to kind of increase both our visibility and our credibility. And so this is where Candid profiles come in. So Candid profiles are what we call the nonprofit profiles that we'll find for more or less all nonprofit organizations on GuideStar.org. So like sometimes we will use Candid and GuideStar interchangeably. It might be helpful to kind of get a sense of what's the difference. Candid is the overarching organization that contains a lot of different online tools and informational resources. GuideStar is one of our informational tools within the larger resource of Candid. So GuideStar is a comprehensive database of all 1.8, almost 1.9 million active nonprofit organizations in the United States. If you are a nonprofit organization, there's a pretty good chance that you are already on GuideStar. Even if you have never seen your profile, even if you have never touched your profile, chances are, with not that many exceptions to the rule, that you already exist on GuideStar through Candid. And the reason for this is one of the deals of being a tax-exempt nonprofit organization is that your tax returns, your 990s, are public documents. And GuideStar as a site collects all of these 990s, all of these publicly available tax returns, and compiles them in a pretty easy to browse database. So anyone who wants to look up a nonprofit organization and understand what's going on behind the scenes at that organization can do so any day of the week. But the really nice thing is that you also have the option to go in and claim your Candid profile on guidestar.org and go in and update it yourself and kind of flesh out the information that you find there so that you can go beyond just the basic bare bones IRS data. Like your tax return, it tells a story, but it doesn't always tell the full story. And it doesn't always tell it in a really compelling, engaging way that highlights the strength of your programs or the impact of your programs. So filling out your profile and keeping it up to date is a great opportunity for you to take charge of your own narrative and tell your own story. So these profiles have the ability to provide insights on millions of nonprofits and provide a lot of meaningful data that donors and funders and the media and the general public can use to kind of make up their minds about you. And it allows you to tell your story and showcase both your credibility and your transparency while increasing your visibility in the public sphere. And so we include information that you provide yourself, along with anything that comes from your most recent 990s and a variety of other sources as well. Along the way, the more information that you add into your profile, the greater the seal of transparency that you earn. So these are not seals of approval, these are seals of transparency. The more information that you provide in your Candid profile, the more transparent you are, the more information is available about who you are, how you work, and how you operate. It starts from a bronze seal of transparency and moves gradually up in a buildable way up until you hit the highest level, which is the platinum seal of transparency. So what these look like in a little bit greater depth, and we'll go through these in depth one by one soon. Starting with the bronze seal of transparency. This one is relatively quick to get for yourself. Like within about 5 minutes, you could get a bronze seal of transparency. The benefit of the bronze seal is that it helps donors to find you. This gives you the option to share your mission statement and keep your contact information up to date, which is essential for kind of helping donors to find you in the first place. Then you have a silver seal of transparency. That's the next level up. And the silver seal of transparency focuses on program information and branding details. Then if you add even more information, Then you have the ability to get a gold seal of transparency. This involves adding information on your financials and on your leadership. Finally, the top level is the platinum seal of transparency. It takes a little more effort to get there, but it really makes you stand out in a crowd. This one is all about your impact. This allows you to share any measures of progress and the results of your programs. And so one important thing to keep in mind for all of us are out there looking for funding. Funders care about two things probably more than anything else. They care about credibility and they care about impact. So if you can exude credibility and impact in everything that you do, you're going to do quite well when it comes to securing funding for your organization. There's a lot of different places where you can showcase credibility and you can showcase impact, and obviously it should come across in your fundraising appeals and your grant proposals, but your profile on GuideStar is one of those places where you can exhibit these qualities. The benefits to earning a seal of transparency through your Candid profile. It's worth mentioning, this does not cost you a dime. It is completely free to claim and update your profile and gives you a credible place to store all of this information in one place about all of these details on how you operate. And it increases your visibility and kind of raises your public profile a little bit on the website itself and with the over 200 different partners who use this data. And there is a real true benefit for this for you. So there was a study that was done several years back. I guess according to the footnote there, about 5 years back, there was a study done using 2 cohorts of nonprofits. In year 1, neither cohort of nonprofits had a claimed and updated profile on GuideStar. In year 2, one cohort still did not have a seal of transparency on GuideStar, but the other cohort did. And it turns out that the nonprofits who did have a seal of transparency on GuideStar received on average 53% more total contributions through their fundraising than the ones who did not have a seal of transparency. And that's a significant difference. So it is worth your time to just take a few minutes, claim your profile, and add in this information. It might take a few minutes and some parts take longer than others, but the results for your fundraising are definitely worthwhile when you consider what the research says. Okay, so who is looking at this information? Here's a small sampling. Like I mentioned a moment ago, there's over 200 different institutions, organizations, companies, etc., who are using this information that Candid has. And so here's just a little bit that we have here. So you've got your tech companies, including a lot of very, very large ones here. So Facebook, Google, Apple Pay, PayPal, all of these organizations are using your data on GuideStar in various ways. Like if you've ever participated in, say, a Facebook fundraiser, if you've ever run your own Facebook fundraiser, or if you've ever donated to a friend's Facebook fundraiser, they get their information from GuideStar. Donor advised funds. I don't know if anyone here has gotten money from donor advised funds before, but they have been growing tremendously in recent years. And a lot of the people who used to start grant making foundations instead set up donor advised funds for their charitable giving because there's a lot less upkeep and paperwork involved in running a donor advised fund. And it was like, for instance, Fidelity Charitable, that's one of the largest ones of all. Donors who have their money in a donor advised fund there, when they log into their account through Fidelity Charitable and they want to figure out where do they want to give money this year, their account is hooked up to GuideStar and Candid so that when they're looking up potential organizations that they want to give to this year, if you are on that site and you have a seal of transparency, it makes you stand out and it helps them make better informed giving decisions. Lots of giving platforms like Network for Good, which plenty of people have heard of, Salesforce, etc. They are all using this information. And grants management softwares, Blackbaud, Foundant, Flux, etc. When you are turning in a grant application, you do your research, presumably, before you turn in a grant application to a foundation. After you've turned in your foundation, now it's their turn to research you. When they do their due diligence at these foundations, a lot of them, their grants management software that they have at the foundation, it is linked up with these Candid profiles so that they can quickly look you up and figure out, all right, what's actually happening over there? And if they see that you have tons of good information in there, transparent, nothing to hide, it really helps your case when you're looking for funding. Okay. So with that, let's keep going. Let's look at a quick example of how some of this information shows up here. So Facebook, for instance, I mentioned Facebook fundraisers. Billions of dollars have been raised for nonprofits through some of these Facebook fundraisers. Millions of people are following nonprofits on Facebook. So whenever you're running a Facebook fundraiser, if anyone has participated in those, you'll often see this like section that's like about this nonprofit. When people click to see, okay, what is this nonprofit all about? The information that they take away from there, all of that information, it's coming from GuideStar. It's coming from Candid. So it's helpful to have good, complete, current information there. Apple Pay. Another way in which companies are using this information. If you obtain a bronze seal of transparency or higher, you become eligible if you want to use Apple Pay for your donations. So if you're interested, you can connect with your donation platform to add like a donate with Apple Pay button onto your website. That is available for you. Fidelity Charitable here. I talked about this a moment ago. So these are growing immensely, a lot of these donor advised funds. Billions of dollars are going to organizations through these. So whenever donors are on their account through, say, Fidelity Charitable, they're able to search for your nonprofit if they want, and they can see your full profile. So the question is, how much information have you put in there? Okay, so all that being said, how do you claim your Candid profile if you decide that you really want to do this? And considering it's free and it doesn't take the most time and it has a lot of dividends for you if you do, it's probably worth it. Here's how you do it. First of all, you want to access your profile. You want to sign in or create an account through GuideStar.org. So you'll see up on the upper right hand, if you already have a login, just log in. If you don't, click create account and make one. And then you want to, from there, once you've logged in, claim your nonprofit's Candid profile. So once you're logged in, up at the very top of the front page, you'll see a search bar. So put in your organization. You can use your EIN if you want to, if that's simpler. Do a search, and then you'll want to validate your connection and just add a little bit of information about, say, who you are, your contact information, so that you can prove that you are a legitimate representative of your nonprofit organization, so that therefore you have the ability to get in and update your own profile. So one piece of advice, if you're doing this, when you log in on GuideStar.org, if you can, use your work email address, like a .org email address affiliated with your organization when creating your account. It's going to speed up the process of you getting approved to get in and update your own profile. If you use just like an ordinary Gmail account or something like that, it's not the end of the world, but it's just going to make it take a little bit longer. It means our staff on the other side is going to have to do a little more work to verify that you legitimately work for your nonprofit and that you are allowed to access it. So if possible, use your own like .org work email address. Once you've been approved as a representative of your organization, now you can log in again to update your organization's Candid profile. So whenever you log in, you will see up at the top, update nonprofit profile. It is circled here on the screen up near the top. You click on that and it'll show your organization that you're allowed to edit. You click the part that says edit with the little pencil icon next to it, and then you can get started. So with that, let's jump in. Okay, how do you earn seals of transparency from here? So like I said, here are our 4 seals of transparency. It starts simple with bronze, moves up to silver, then to gold, then to platinum. The more information you put in, the higher the seal you earn. So let's start with bronze. What's involved in that? So this can be earned in just a few minutes. All it is, make sure your mission statement is in there. Make sure you have up-to-date contact information in there, like who do they send donations to? And this is helpful so that when people are looking you up, and if they want to give to you, they have a current set of information, so they're not sending donations to the wrong place. You can also put in some keywords for what issue area you work in, what kind of categories do you want associated with you. And it's pretty quick, pretty simple. And it takes so little time to do that, that if you are putting in the information to get a bronze seal of transparency, you almost may as well stay on to try to work your way up to silver. This is slightly more involved, but still pretty simple. Silver seal of transparency. This involves sharing some information about your programs. So this allows for a bit of good storytelling. And I think storytelling is really helpful here. If you're thinking about trying to kind of sway hearts and minds here when you're thinking about approaching funders and donors, etc., you want to tell them a compelling story. So if you share some information here about what are the types of programs that you have available and what is the issue that you aim to solve out there, you'll be able to do a lot of really compelling storytelling here. So look through maybe your top 3 to 5-ish programs that you have at your organization, if you have that many. And for each program, you want to put in a short description and include any geographic information, population that you serve, budgetary information for that program. Pretty straightforward. Also, does your organization make grants or not? Pretty simple question that you probably know the answer to. That's also involved in the silver section. And if you want, you can put in some good branding information that kind of makes this a little more aesthetically appealing once donors are looking at it. So if you want, you could put in your logo. So you see, we have the example of Candid, our own Candid profile. And so we have our logo, we have our tagline, see the world, make it better. You can put in any social media handles that you want to. If let's say you have a robust presence on TikTok or something, you can put a link to here's how you access us on TikTok so that people can really get to know what are you up to lately. If you want, another nice feature is that you can add photos or videos. I know there's a lot of organizations out there that have a wonderful short video showcasing the impact of their programs. And we're always looking places to show off our video to get some viewers for it, because a lot of these videos are good. And sometimes in our grant proposals, sometimes there's a place to put a video and sometimes there isn't. But here you can put it and it can help tell your story in a nice, short, compelling way. So you don't have to do it, but it's a nice option available to you. Then we find our way to the gold seal of transparency. This one is a little more involved. So let's talk about what's involved here when we're looking at a gold seal. So financials. Already you have some financial information likely in your profile through your 990. But if you want to go beyond just having people look at a big, dense tax document, you can have this be a good visual so that people can see really quickly and easily where you're at in terms of finances and operations. So your options here are, if you have audited financial statements, recent ones, you can just upload a recent audited financial statement, and that all of that will feed into the profile. If you don't have an audited financial statement, because a lot of us don't, you can just complete some fields manually, answer some questions to share some financials. And the screenshot on the right here shows a visual of what this information is going to look like in action on your profile here. You'll be able to see revenue and expenses here, and it'll kind of tell a story over time. Sometimes it'll be able to tell a story of how you've kind of maintained some financial stability here, because I know a lot of funders, they like to see sustainability. They like to see just a safe bet that it doesn't look like you're about to totally go out of business. Also, it can sometimes show a story of growth here, that like, oh, our programs have been growing over time, which means our expenses have to grow over time. And so hopefully our revenue will also grow over time. Also involved in a gold seal of transparency, you have the option to include some demographic information. So you'll want to share, if possible, some demographic data on your organization's leadership here. So this will include stuff on race and ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, things like that, disabilities. And all of this is in the name of increasing equitable access to funding here. And if you are interested in figuring out how to collect this demographic information, we also have a really handy guide that you can use, and we can share it in the follow-up email for you, that includes just some language that you can borrow when you're explaining why you need to collect demographic data on your leadership or on your staff. And it includes a sample survey that you can send around to your team that can give you a little bit of a template to work off of. And a really nice bonus, if you earn a gold seal of transparency, is we have a wonderful campaign going that's called Go for the Gold. And if one of my colleagues could put a link to Go for the Gold into the chat somewhere, that would be amazing. So what Go for the Gold is if you manage to put in enough information to your Candid profile to achieve a gold seal of transparency or above, if you get a platinum seal of transparency, this applies to you too, and you're a smallish nonprofit with less than $1 million in annual revenue or expenses, then you are eligible to get a free 1-year subscription to the Foundation Directory in the Essential level. And this is really beneficial as you're looking for funding. I don't know how many of you have tried the Foundation Directory before or have taken our trainings on how to use the Foundation Directory, but what GuideStar is for nonprofits, the Foundation Directory is for funders, and it'll help you do phenomenal levels of research in a really simple, user-friendly way to be able to figure out who your next funders should be. So this is a really, really good offer that's available to you. And so if you keep your seal of transparency current, these are seals that you need to update once a year just to make sure all of the information is still accurate. You'll be able to get this free 1-year subscription to the Foundation Directory. It's really, really wonderful and really, really helpful. Okay, the Platinum Seal of Transparency. This one is going to be all about impact here. So this is going to be all about sharing measures of progress and the results of your actions. Because like I said, funders, they care about credibility and they care about impact. And if you can showcase both of those things in your profile, then you're going to seem like a very trustworthy, competent, ethical organization that funders are going to love to give to, and donors are going to love to give to as well. So what's involved in Platinum? One of these things is your strategic plan, if you have one. So if you have a relatively current strategic plan, like no older than 5 years, you can just upload that. And so that makes things relatively quick and simple if you have that option available. If you don't have a recent strategic plan handy, the alternative is you can answer 2 questions. Those questions are really straightforward ones. What is your organization aiming to accomplish? And what are your strategies for making it happen? If anyone here has ever taken our proposal writing class, you may or may not remember that those 2 questions show up in our grant proposal writing class, all about what funders really want to know about you. So what you're doing here in answering these questions is you are telling funders exactly what they want to know in a good, clear, jargon-free, simple, straightforward way. What is your reason for existing? What is it that you set out to do? And how are you making it happen? What is your methodology? Those are pretty simple and straightforward. So if you can do those 2 simple things, you're on your way there. And then when it comes to showing the impact of your work, find some metrics. So look through your programs and figure out maybe 3 to 5 metrics that are showing the results of the work that you do. And each of these metrics should have like roughly 3 to 5 years worth of data available. And you have the option as you're displaying these metrics to include context notes if you need to, which means if there's been anything that's happened that has affected your ability to get results, like if there is one year when you had an unusually high impact compared to before, and you want to maybe explain why that is, you can do that. Or if there is a year in which you had unusually low impact, and I know in recent years, 2020, for instance, 2021, those were not typical years for any of us. And so if you're nervous about displaying kind of a dip in your impact, possibly for some of you, like I wouldn't be too worried, because like everyone knows that those were difficult times for everybody and everyone's programs were affected more or less. And it gives you an opportunity in there to put a note of like, yeah, we got shut down during the height of COVID for a while and it affected our outcomes. So you have the opportunity to kind of explain that a little bit. And how do these look on the site? If you take a look at this screenshot over here on the right, once again, we're using our own organization, Candid, as an example here, and you can see a few metrics that we included on our profile. So number of organizations that you can find on GuideStar, and you can see over the course of some years, there is kind of a steady, slow but steady growth here until at least you hit 2020 and you see a little bit of a dip here. Again, COVID happened. So there is an explanation for why you might see a dip in some of these metrics here. Number of unique website visitors on GuideStar. Again, between 2015 and roughly the present, you can see a gradual story of growth, a story of success here. So what you do, look at your programs and figure out what is the story that you want to tell in terms of impact, and you can make that happen. Also, make sure to include a target population for any of these if necessary, and connect any of these metrics to a program if you need to. Helps make things coherent. All right, now here is one of my favorite parts, which is the common results catalog. So if anyone here is kind of struggling with the idea of figuring out what metrics to showcase, like maybe you haven't fully fleshed out your metrics in your programs all that thoroughly yet, and you need a little bit of help and you need some ideas. So we have this resource. It is a free resource called the Common Results Catalog. It is a very large, like 47-page, I think, PDF. And what you can do is you can scan this list. It goes through all different subject areas and shows different types of metrics that different categories of organizations might use to track their impact. You can pick the metrics that fit you the best and borrow those to enter those into your profile, and people will be able to see that. I actually want to hop out of the PowerPoint for a second, if I may, to show you what this looks like in action, just because I am personally very fond of the Common Results Catalog. So as you can see, this is a very large PDF file here, and it goes into all sorts of different subject areas. So let's see right here at the top. Let's say you were an advocacy organization of some type. Just for advocacy organizations, we have all of these different metrics. So more than 2 pages worth of ideas that you could use, that you could borrow when filling out your profile, like number of policymakers or candidates reached or something, number of votes for or against specific policies. This gives you good ideas that you can use. So I mentioned this partly because it is useful in filling out your profile, but also because it can also be useful in life to use this Common Results Catalog. Like, even if you're not even messing with your Candid profile right now, but you're just trying to figure out metrics and potential outcomes that you want to track, and you need somewhere to look for ideas, you can just pull up this free resource, find a subject area that matches what you do, and get some good ideas that you might be able to put into action. And it'll be pretty free for you. Okay. So that's the Common Results Catalog. It's lovely. And so with that, that's what you'll find in each of the different 4 seals of transparency. And so the way that you're going to get into this, like I mentioned earlier, first, you want to access your profile, make sure you claim it, make sure that you're a representative of your organization and you get approved to edit the thing, update any required information as you go through, and publish it. That's like kind of a one little reminder at the end is, after you've entered all of this information, remember to hit the button at the bottom that says publish in order for this information to actually show up on your profile. And if you don't see it there right away, like, don't get scared, you didn't lose everything. The changes that you make can take up to 15 minutes to show up. So maybe just wait a little bit and then refresh the page, and chances are you will see all of that information there. Afterwards, now, how do you maximize? Let's say you got a platinum seal of transparency and you put in the work to do this. How do you get the most benefit out of this? Like, first of all, anyone who is searching on GuideStar to find potential organizations to support, it makes you stand out automatically if you have that little thing that says platinum next to your nonprofit's name. But other things that you can do after you've hit publish, like you can see in this screenshot, step 1, you're under there when you're filling out your updates. Step 2, you're publishing. Keep going to step 3 so that you can access the benefits. That's going to give you some resources on how to get the most out of your seal of transparency so that you can use it on your website or on social media or other things. All holders of a seal of transparency have access to a unique shareable full profile link so that you can put that wherever you want. Stick it on your website, stick it on your Facebook page, stick it on your LinkedIn, wherever you want. And that is going to give people ready access to all of this information that you can show off that you have nothing to hide and tell your story this way. Some examples of how this might look in real life. You can see how people have their seals of transparency highlighted on social media, on their website here. They can put it here on a donation page so that if people are kind of making up their mind on whether or not they want to give, they have this option here. Help resources along the way. sometimes the road to getting a seal might be rockier than you expected, depending on your situation. We always have a Seals of Transparency guide available on our website that you can use to identify what kind of information you're going to need to gather before you get started. Also, just maybe bookmark the help page on candid.org, just help.candid.org, and you'll be able to get answers to questions along the way, like, oh, why can't I find myself on GuideStar? There's often a reason for that. For instance, if you're a relatively newly established organization, it might take a little time before you've been around long enough to show up on GuideStar. And if you're thinking, hey, I should be on there already, it'll give you some assistance on how do you reach out to us with whatever necessary documentation we would need to make sure that we get you onto GuideStar right away, things like that. And we have a very wonderful support team available. Like, in addition to all of these frequently asked questions that we have, and we have quite a lot, and they answer most of your questions, our support team, they are so lovely and they are so knowledgeable. They know everything about everything, and they will get on there with you and help you out. So what's next? Take the time, if you haven't already, to go in and claim your nonprofit profile. At that point, go in and edit. You can earn different seals of transparency. And even if you just have a few minutes, you can start with bronze and get more later on when you have more time. And find any resources and support along the way at help.candid.org. Anyway, what do we got for questions?
Tracy, we have 3 that we can answer with our time left. The first one is, we are a startup nonprofit and we don't have a 990 yet. Can we still get a gold seal of transparency?
Okay, so if you're a startup, it might depend how startup-y a startup are you. Often it'll take like a year or 2 from your initial founding before you have, like, say, filed a 990 and it'll show up on GuideStar. But if you have all of your paperwork in order, you have your incorporation, you have your 501c3, etc., you can reach out to our support team, and they're going to ask for just some documentation from you, like proof of your incorporation, proof of your tax exemption, and they'll be able to set you up and make sure that they can help get you onto GuideStar so that you can begin adding this information. And keep in mind, some questions are optional. Some options you can say, like, decline to state if you don't have that information yet. And for, like, say, finances, startups usually do not have audited financial statements. If that's the case, you can fill out those fields manually. I think in most cases, you should be able to get enough information in there to get a gold seal of transparency.
Great, thank you. We have another question that asks, what is some advice for newly established nonprofits to increase visibility for the nonprofit profile?
Okay. So for a new organization, I feel like this goes beyond Candid profiles as well, and it's always a difficult thing. The early stages are always rather tricky. I would say the more you can fill out your profile as thoroughly as you can, and remember to share it in the places where you get the most attention already, that is going to be helpful for you. So growing your visibility, it's always tricky in the early stages. So I would say assemble your team and make sure that everyone on your existing current team, even if it's a small one, is getting out the word about your organization. Like, if they are sharing through their own social media handles a little bit about the work that you do and sharing the link to your GuideStar page, enlisting your board of directors. Their job is to be ambassadors for your organization. So the more that they can go out there into the world and showcase your organization, including sharing your profile, that is going to be helpful as well. Include it in your newsletter that you send out. Include it on your Facebook page if that's where you get a lot of your people. And also just the benefit of collaborations and partnerships in the early days cannot be understated. That like you need to build yourself a village, and your village includes any staff that you currently have or any volunteers that you currently have, obviously your board, as I mentioned, any of your early supporters. Who are your earliest loyal champions? Who are your first donors that you have landed? And any other partners that you've brought on, organizations that you kind of collaborate with on programming or marketing or anything like that, that you share space with. All of those things, like, harness the power of your full network to get the word out about the work that you're doing. That's pretty much the best you can do in the early stages. And it takes time, and it is not easy. Like oftentimes it'll take a couple of years before you find yourself in a position where you're starting to get an influx of good grant money. And that's kind of part of just the process early on.
Thank you, Tracy. Our last question for today is, how often can you publish new information throughout the year?
Oh, you can go in whenever you need to if there is a new number that you want to include. If you have a new metric that you want to put in, like anytime if you log into your profile, you will find the little part that says edit. You can go in and edit. It's not like you can only go in once and whatever you put in is in there forever. Because if that were the case, like you'd have a lot of people who were stalling out at, say, a bronze seal and not able to go further. So yeah, update whenever you like, but at the very least, we would say try to keep this thing updated once a year, because these seals of transparency, they turn over every single year. You'll always see a year stated on them. So right now you can get a 2023 seal of transparency. In several months, it'll be time to update and get a 2024 seal of transparency. So you go in, you look over the information that you have in there so far, figure out what's the same, what's different, and update things that way. Also, I forgot to mention earlier, when it comes to financial information, if you're filling out your fields manually for finances, just make sure whatever numbers that you are putting in manually match whatever numbers are in your most current 990, so that you're telling a consistent story. That's just a hot tip for you. All right, we got anything else before we prepare to conclude for today?
We do not, Tracy. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. I hope this was at least somewhat helpful for you. This is a free tool that you can use whenever you want, and it just helps you have another outlet on the internet to kind of build your visibility, in addition, as a complement to your website or your social media or any other way that you try to put your best face forward in the world. It's a small, simple, free of charge thing that gets big results. Because remember, they're from that study. People who get a seal of transparency, there are, like, the results have been demonstrated, 53% more contributions for the organizations that take the time to actually earn a seal. So I believe in you. You can do this. This is not the only thing to do to increase your fundraising, but it is one small, simple thing that you can do that's going to help you out tremendously. So with that, thank you everybody so much, and feel free to come back for more trainings. We're here all the time. We do tons of these things. Come back if you want to learn about grant research, writing grant proposals, doing budgets, corporate giving, etc. So anyway, with that, we'll see you next time